Today, over 7 billion people experience the world in different ways. Isn't it time for you to think global?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Think Global podcast. I am your host, International Seth, and today we have a new guest with us coming all the way from Southeast Asia. We'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Cece Nobre. What's up, Cece? How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm all good.
So you are all the way in Thailand, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
South
okay.
Thailand.
South Thailand. So you're actually in Phuket, yeah?
Yeah, island of Phuket, like really close to Malaysia, very, very bottom of Thailand.
Okay, and I've loved Thailand. I mean, I've been there several times. Of course, that's where I met you during our TCNJ, during our master's course. But Thailand has been like really like a really close to my heart because when I go there, I just feel like it's so free and it's like you have so much stuff to offer. I mean, you have great food, you have great beaches, a strong culture, so many tourist sites. What are you doing in Thailand right now, and where are you exactly?
You're right about Thailand. Thailand's a fantastic country, like really underrated, I think. Like on the global scale, it's a perfect country for living. This is my 10th year now. Just finishing up my 10th year in Thailand, and right now I work for United World's College Thailand, the best school in the world. Like I love where I work. We're part of this big network of international schools around the world. There's like 17 different schools. We're the one that represents Thailand, and I could talk about that later. But I work there. I'm an art teacher. I'm the coordinator for the diversity, equity, and inclusion at our school.
Okay.
The international school teacher and artist.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into your art because that's something I definitely want to cover on this show today. But like I said, I've been there. I think about 5 or 6 times, but also like extended periods of time, maybe like 5 weeks at a time, at least a month. So I have a really good understanding of Thailand and stuff. But one thing that obviously drives the Thai economy is tourism. So how has tourism been affected since COVID had came on the scene since this last spring?
Well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. Number one, Thailand, I think, when you put all the different stats together, has had the best response to COVID. I mean, we're a country here of like 67 million people. There's been, I think, 50 deaths. Total cases like 3,000 and some change.
Yeah.
So when it first happened, there was a lot of measures that came in really, really like strict, and like we were like locked into our district for a good while. I can't remember how long it was, like maybe like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Couldn't even like go outside of our street, go to the supermarket, all that kind of stuff. But that worked. And so inside of Thailand, we're very free. Like everybody wears a mask. We do things like social distancing, but it's not to the levels that other countries are. So within Thailand, life goes on as usual. We still go out. We don't have any kind of lockdown situations. We still have our normal lifestyle in Phuket of going to the beaches and going out with friends and things like that, going to the jungle. So on that side, it's been great. The tourism side, I know Thailand's been hurting. There's a lot of people in the tourism industry. Our island is kind of like split in 2. So there's the north part of the island, which is more like domestic, like people who live here, local. And then the southern part is the more touristy part. So I live in the north. So for us, life looks pretty much the same. We don't have a lot of tourists up here. A lot of the people who work in the north and their businesses depend on the tourism, so people are hit more than before. The South is totally different, though. The South used to be very packed with tourism, and now it's like completely shut down. So there's a city called Patong. Patong is like our miniature entertainment city, like in Phuket. It looks like a miniature Bangkok. It's very kind of strange, but it's completely shut down. So it used to be very, very full of people, lots of movement, lots of nightlife. And now you go there, everything has shutters. There's like big black like nets that are like for construction that are hanging in front of places. Tons of places have moved out. It's totally empty. On some parts of that, it's awesome because you live here. You're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Like kind of like freedom, space, and it's quiet. but for how long will it be until it actually like affects us and our work? I think we're very grateful that the COVID numbers are very low and our life is normal here, but we're going to need the tourism to pick up pretty soon, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know, like in the city of Bangkok, which is the capital. I mean, Bangkok is notorious for having such a vibrant city, right? Like it's one of those cities that don't sleep 24/7. I mean, there's always something to do. You have a wide range of activities you can get into, everything that you can get into. Is it still popping off like that, or is it kind of
I know.
calmed down?
As far as I know, my wife still works in Bangkok like half the time, so she's going up regularly. I don't go up so much. I'm really busy here, but she tells me same as it always is. You know, super busy as always. And the thing is, like Thailand has a pretty good internal economy as well, so things still do keep moving. Right? We don't have a lot of people coming in, but because we're not locked down. There are a lot of benefits for that, so things are still moving.
Excellent. Okay, well, we bring every guest that we bring on the show, we want to show, like, give our audience an understanding of how the world is so connected and how us as individuals can experience other countries and other cultures. And so we have a segment on our show called World Call. That's when we get our guests 10 seconds to name off some of the countries you've been to. Now, I know you traveled extensively as well, so maybe your list is going to be over 10 seconds, but we'll give you 10 seconds on the World Call. Go.
Canada, Brazil, Paraguay, Nigeria, Spain, Cape Verde, Nepal, China, Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So I heard like South America, I heard North America, obviously Southeast Asia. You know, how had your travels abroad? Because you're originally from Missouri, right? Yeah.
We're all very different from Missouri.
Yeah, you're originally from Missouri. I mean, that's what, but obviously you have a very international makeup. Your father, your mother, and everybody, your family is very international. But how has your travels, like what led you to become an international teacher?
There's a long road to there, like many little steps that go somewhere, right? So as a kid, being mixed, I was always interested in world culture. So I would always look at maps and National Geographic, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, all these types of things.
Yeah, I remember
Legends
that.
of the Hidden Temple. Yeah, all these different like little things. And then I got into geography. And then when I went to university, I studied anthropology and linguistics. So I went even more studying cultures and things like that.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I graduated, I moved back to South America to stay in my father's country. And then went back and forth between Paraguay and Brazil. I was always been interested from a kid. Like a huge part of my identity was finding out what my identity was. So all of this like search led me to look around the whole world. And how I got to Thailand, I don't even know. Like, I mean, I do know, but I mean, it's a very long story, and it's kind of interesting how I landed here in Thailand. And it's essentially because I always wanted to live in South America as a kid. When I got to South America as an adult, I lived there and I loved it, but it's very difficult to make a living in South America.
True.
Very difficult. So I found Southeast Asia, which in a lot of ways is like a cousin to my part of South America, like that Paraguay, Brazil area. Like there's a lot that I see here in Southeast Asia. So for me, that was nice to find it and find a place that I could survive, that it wasn't as much of a struggle, way more opportunities, way more security. And so that kind of like led me to be here. Living outside the United States, I mean, there's so many benefits about it. So many benefits about it. Like, I'm glad that I knew from a really young age that kind of the illusions that the United States tells their citizens growing up, that those weren't true. Like, the United States is the best country in the world. As a kid, I was like, I don't think it is. Like, there's a lot of different things, and it depends on what you like, right?
I mean, that's
and as I traveled, I realized
that's a very bold statement, isn't it? Like the best in the world in terms of what? Like, you know, I mean, if you look at healthcare, if you look at education, if you look at crime, if you look at homelessness, like all the United States is pretty down the ladder on this, you know, when it comes to other countries. So what is the, you know, is the measure of success in that regard?
the big one for me was always the United States idea that it was the freest country in the world, like freedom.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people don't understand what freedom actually is. So when I lived in South America, I would think a lot like, what do I not have freedom here
Mhm.
that I have in the United States? And you think about it, you're like, okay. And then even in South America, or sorry, Southeast Asia, like the idea of freedom, like Thailand literally translates to the land of the free. And like when you're here and you see freedom, like from being in Thailand, you're like, how is this place repressed compared to the United States? How is this place people not have freedom compared to the United States? Like in a lot of ways, it feels like we have a lot more freedom. And I think that's the biggest thing that is the illusion that when I grew up in the United States is that other countries did not have freedom and it wasn't easy to live there. It's like, that's not true at all. That's not true at all.
Okay. So you've been in Thailand for about 10 years and you decided, obviously, this was like a culmination decision of your own personal experiences. You're trying to find your own personal identity. Then you choose a career of becoming a teacher. How was it like assimilating into like a foreign country? Obviously, you probably didn't, when you landed off the plane, you probably didn't only spoke a little bit of Thai. Obviously, you're a different structure. You look different. Well, I guess you could, not so much different, but, you definitely are different, So how is it trying to navigate through a foreign country, a culture, and meet people and try to assimilate into the foreign country?
Yeah, I think the assimilation is the big one, depending on how comfortable you'll be outside the United States, is how willing you are to be vulnerable enough to assimilate, So when you assimilate, you have to really put yourself out there almost like a baby, and you have to grow step by step, So when I was a kid and I first went to South America, I had, let's say, scaffolding, or I had supports. I had people that I could translate. They could translate for me all the time. You have family members around. What's that? Hold my hand, take me to this place. You have like this safety net, right?
Yeah,
You're coddled. Like Southeast Asia, then it was like me by myself. And it was, I'm lucky that I went to school for anthropology. So we had trained, when you do ethnography, when you go to a country, how do you assimilate? Like, how do you adapt yourself really quickly? And a lot of it is like training yourself to realize that where you come from is flawed and where you're going to go to has a lot of benefits. And if you can make that like negotiation in your head already, when you get there, it's very easy as long as you're willing to be vulnerable, right? So when you get there, when I moved to Thailand first, I had a roommate who was Thai who spoke very little English, and he was the brother of one of my former Thai students in the United States. And so you see it like, my brother can help you out. So my first month and a half, I was with him, and his English was very, very basic, So I had to pick it up, and so I trained myself. Like I got a book and I learned how to like write and say like 6 letters a week. Very simple. Just like G, P, F, A, and O. That week, I'm just going to focus on those letters, those sounds, right? And then after a month, I could read by myself. And that made a big difference because when I could read by myself Thai, then I could learn how to teach myself how to speak Thai without having to have a teacher. I could just have people write down words for me. I could find things. I could figure it out. I would go to restaurants and like walk through trying to read, like a kindergartner is. It's like, this says ham, this has ham, this has sauce, right? Like these big achievements. Like, oh, I know how to read sauce, But it accumulates. And then after about like 2 months, I was able to start to have conversations with people. And I just stayed doing that. Actually, once I became an international school teacher, my Thai has kind of suffered a bit because I don't practice it as much. But my first 4 years in Thailand, before I entered international schools, I was having to speak Thai all the time. I was working in a Thai school. I was always around the Thai community, and all my friends were Thai. And so, yeah, I kind of had to assimilate if I wanted to have a good life. But I mean, there's a lot of people in Thailand who don't assimilate at all. This is a place where people can speak English their whole life here and get by just fine. But they have a different type of life in Thailand.
Yeah.
When you
probably not as pleasurable as because when you can navigate, I mean, you know like what's going on. But say if I was there, I can only know what I know or rely on somebody to help me to get where I'm going. But I know Thai language is very different, like even the look and obviously the phonics and everything like that. So just credit to you, man, for not allowing any of that to stop you. And I think what we should do is maybe put you on the spot a little little bit and have you say something in Thai to our audience, man. I think they would love to hear that real quick.
Okay, ผมเป็นครูศิลปะที่โรงเรียนธรรมชาติมี36ปีมีแฟนมีลูกด้วยผมเป็นลูกครึ่งอเมริกาใต้กับอเมริกาเอ่อผมชอบอยู่ไปทะเลฟังเพลงทุกโลก
Wow,
ไม่รู้ไหมแบบนี้
that's awesome, man. Awesome. Congratulations, man. I know like 3 or 4 words, so thank you. And please, yeah.
I work, I have family, I live here, all this kind of stuff, just basic stuff.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Excellent, excellent. That's really cool. So yeah, let's talk about because you know when I was there, you were credit to you again. You were going through grad school, raising a young child and everything like that. So
Yeah.
and you was able to complete the course and get your certification. How was it raising a family, you know, abroad? You know, I mean, especially in somewhere like Thailand. Like how is that?
For me, it's pretty easy. Like my wife is also a foreigner here, so we're both what they call expats, but you know we're immigrants in Thailand. We have to keep working to be able to stay here. She comes from China. For us, Thailand's quite good for family because it's the middle of our two cultures. Thailand is a mixed place, right? So it's very international, but historically it's rooted in Indian and Chinese culture. It's also a tropical culture. So for me, having this mixed culture that's in the tropics, I can identify with that being mixed and from a tropical place in South America. So that I love it. Like that part of a country I want to live in. And then for my wife, there's a huge overlap of Chinese culture on top of Thailand. We're also only a couple hours from China by flight. So her having that proximity and the Chinese culture around here makes it very comfortable for her. So we're both comfortable here. And Thailand is a place where if you're mixed race and you have mixed kids, it's really, there's no issue with that. And in a lot of ways, it's a benefit. So for the issues I had in the United States growing up being mixed in the countryside, my son has no issues with his race and identity being mixed of two immigrants in Thailand. For him, that's normal. So for us, it's a great place to have as a family because my son has like the optimal conditions for what we would culture for him to grow up in, right? Yeah. And it could change, but for now, this is a perfect place for us to be. And as far as raising a family, like we both have jobs, we both have work permits, we have good health insurance. Thailand has great health care.
Yeah, I can vouch for that, man. I could definitely vouch for that. I got sick one time. I went to Brumagran Hospital down there on like Soy 2 or 1. They hooked me up with lab tests, and I got an ID and all that stuff. Saw the doctor, the follow up, and all of that was like $50. Yeah. You know, I mean, I went to the
compared to the US, that's a stark difference. Like in the US, like especially whenever we had our son whenever he was born, and I thought about the cost and I compared it. I was like, this is like 15% of what it would cost in the United States, right? And it's kind of it's incredible. It's crazy. So there's a lot of benefits to living here, and it makes it easy for family and for kids. Like Thailand has a culture that really takes a lot of pride on innocence, right? On enjoying the innocence of life, taking things simple, right? So for a child to grow up here, it's great because a lot of things are geared towards children, like playing outside. People are really, really sweet with kids. They're incorporate a lot into like everyday culture. Kids aren't like pushed aside. So for us, like, this is a great place for him to be.
Excellent, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we're listening to the Think Global podcast. I'm your host, International Seth, and we got Mr. Cece Nobre on the show today, coming to us from Phuket, Thailand, where it is 6:30 on November 14th, and it's 2:30 here in Qatar. We're conducting this interview over Zoom, and it's going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and get all those notifications straight to your inbox. Follow us on social media at Azomco Global on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're going live, y'all. All right, one thing I really want to our audience to know is about, I mean, you're not just a teacher, right? I actually went to one of your art exhibits when I was in Thailand, downtown in Bangkok, and I was just amazed about like your talent, right? Let's discuss a little bit about your art style and like what motivates you to create these masterpieces?
Yeah, that's another thing that brought me out to Thailand, or it was actually just like a side effect of coming out to Thailand. But I'm an artist. I started around I was like 22. I was a late bloomer, but my craft is the world of like murals, right? People call it graffiti, street art, whatever. It's just painting on walls, spray paint. Um, and Thailand is a great place for that. We have really, really cheap materials. The cops let us paint on virtually all the walls as long as, you know, within reason of the rules. So it's very, very awesome place to be a muralist here. Yeah, my work has really bloomed a lot in Thailand because of those conditions. Because in South America, paint was really expensive, and the cops would get called a lot in Paraguay. Brazil, it was more free. You could paint everywhere, but the paint was still expensive. Also, a lot of competition. The United States, when I lived in D.C. as an adult, and D.C. very illegal to paint. You need permission for everything. I didn't find a lot of like motivation to paint there either. But Thailand, paint anywhere, everywhere, every day, super cheap, tons of paint, like 30 plus brands of spray paint. It's insane. So anyway, so over the time that I've been here, I've been painting the whole time, and my style has developed a lot. Your airplane is in the, it's in the car.
Little man, what's up, little man?
Do you want to say hello? Say hello? No. You don't want to say no? Okay. It's in the car. Right? Okay. As I was saying, so my style has developed a lot here. I've been able to paint a lot of big walls. I've been able to paint a lot, like probably in Bangkok, painted like over 100 walls. So my style is I do portraiture. I do really big faces, and I paint around a concept that I created about an imaginary country, trying to imagine how I could create certain question, how I could answer certain questions that I had when I was a kid about culture and mixed identity by making, you know, like one of these fantasy worlds, right? Yeah, Todd, yeah, it's right there. All right, so making this like fantasy world. So a lot of times you look at fantasy books like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Star Wars. It's always set in this kind of like you know, medieval time. You know, it's always focused on European type things. Like, and then you had Black Panther come out recently.
Yeah,
which was hinting, you know, what the opposite world would look right. I'd already been thinking about my idea like about 2 years by the time Black Panther had come out. It's not the same, but it's the same idea that there's a fantasy world, right? So I create this imaginary island, and because I went to school for anthropology, I take a look at how to create this world from an anthropological point of view, and what would be the conditions to create a certain culture that would look like this. And basically what my culture is, it's a country, the countries of the global South that have united and created a brand new identity. So the countries of all the ex-colonial parts of the world. So the Americas, Africa, the Middle East, Southern Asia, the Pacific Islands, all these cultures, if they came together and created this new thing. It's a lot like how the Brazilian culture is, or how the country, the culture of Madagascar or Morocco or Thailand, where you have these cultures that have been brewing these different cultures together, and over time they become this brand new thing. And so my artwork looks like this, and it's a bunch of really big faces of bronze people that live in this country. Usually they have really stoic faces, kind of showing that they're strong but also in control. Yeah, and I also, the whole reason I got into art was that I didn't like advertisements selling us an idea of fake happiness. And so I wanted to counter that by making big faces who weren't with like fake smiles, but who had like kind of serious faces, like a look in their eyes, like, you know, don't really mess with me. You can't really move me. This is where I am. And that's basically what my art is. And I produce it in lots of different ways. And now living in Phuket, I've had the space where I'm actually starting to write it out into a novel. So always trying to move it forward. I'm in a great place where with my school, we have this mix of cultures there. So I'm constantly learning new things, and I always apply it into my craft.
Man, that's amazing, man. And what I want to do, I want to get some kind of link for you. I don't know if you have a Facebook page or a website or wherever that you can see the visual so our audience can go and see this. I mean, I've seen it before, and like after you know, you describe it, it really, really hits home because that's really, really deep, man. And credit to you. I mean, that takes a lot of creativity and a lot of passion, a lot of dedication to your craft in order to actually complete such a vast project, man. It's really, really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not
So
done. It's still
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Takes
it's all
forever.
ongoing. So, but yeah, when I get the link, I'm gonna put that down in the description. We'll put a link there so you guys can see CC's art as well.
Yeah.
So, what's next for you, brother? What's next? So you're there, obviously you're settled in right now. Obviously, the world is a vast place. You have been able to experience a lot. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge and you have a lot of wisdom through your travels and understanding of different cultures and anthropology. Would you ever consider living back in the US again?
No. Hard no. Pass. Pass. No.
Yeah.
Man, since I graduated university back in like 2006, I've never wanted to live back in the United States. As an adult, after I graduated, I lived a total of like maybe 10 months in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Like 36 now. So, I mean, I've seen what's on the outside. I've taken
Yeah.
that blue pill or whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
I know what reality is, right?
Yeah.
In the United States now, especially just watching everything go down now, it's not a place I want to be. It looks really toxic.
Yeah.
It looks really toxic. Especially with where my roots are in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's fighting over everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's split. When I was a kid, I remember there being like more moderation, more people kind of like in the middle, more central. Now it just seems like everybody is on two ends and just smashing into each other. I'm not trying to get in the middle. And especially with my family, the way we're set up, I'm not trying to go back to that. My wife is from Wuhan, like just thinking about like going back and like talking about how cool Wuhan is during all this COVID stuff. I don't want to try to convince people, that something is cool when they have this different idea in their head. No, I don't want to move back. Thailand is probably the place we're going to stay. Okay. When all this blows over in the pandemic, if everything is the way I want it to be, I would love to keep going back. I do projects in Nigeria. So I usually go once a year and do projects there. So I want to keep going back there and establishing more of a continual project there. Yeah, okay, but going back to the
yeah, I can feel you, man. I mean, like, yeah, it's confusing. It's maybe something difficult for people, Americans who are in America, to actually maybe hear you say that. So maybe they would take offense to that or say, what is he talking about? What does he know? But like you said, that's your own personal experience. Yeah.
I just felt in the United States, you just spin your tires. Like it's so expensive. Like life has so much overhead, everything can be taken away from you in just a second, right? If you think about the way the healthcare system works, the way that just the economy works, like I just felt like I was just running in place. I couldn't really build, right? And being in Asia, you see a completely different system of economy, completely different opportunities. You can really build things. And I feel like a lot more secure. I don't feel like everything's be ripped away from me. Like in the United States, like I never felt safe working in that economy. I know that sounds weird for people in the United States, but it's true. Economy is not the best one in the world. I'm sorry.
Okay. Just touch on your project, because I didn't know anything about that you were doing in Nigeria, and I had mentioned to you that I'm trying to really establish some roots in Africa as well, in Mozambique and Sudan and Rwanda. So that's my personal project. But you said you had a project going on in Nigeria. Just take a little time to touch on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I have a network through Lagos. One of my wife's friends, she's married to a guy from France, and we met them in Cape Verde when I was doing a project there 6 years ago. He ended up buying one of my paintings, and we stayed in touch. And he's also a teacher in an international school. He teaches at a French school in Lagos, and he ended up inviting me to come and paint a wall there. And I have the school really liked what I did, and they invited me back again. And as I've been going there and doing my projects, I've met other people, and there's other projects to do as well in different parts of Nigeria and different parts of Lagos. And so there's just like this unlimited list of projects I can do there. And Nigeria is a place I've always been interested in because, with Brazil, the roots from slavery in Brazil are very, very embedded with the history of Nigeria.
In
the words that people use.
In Bahia, Salvador.
Yeah, Bahia. And so like the facial markings that the Yoruba would have, you see that in historical photos of Brazil. Quilombo, the idea of the Quilombo is the runaway slave cities, which my island is called, my art is called the island of Quilombo. It's based on these runaway slave cities that were in the northeast part of Brazil. and all the names of these different things are related to Yoruba and Igbo words. So the Afro-Brazilian culture is really the Nigerian culture. So when I go to Nigeria, it's just like you're going back to like the source. It's like, whoa, like I know all this stuff already. How do I already know all this stuff? And it's one of those like deep cultures like India or China where you just can keep digging and keep digging, and there's like never run out of information. There's so much going on in Nigeria. And the first time I went, I was just blown away. I was like, I really love this place. I really, really love this place. I would love to do more stuff in other parts of Africa, particularly someplace like Kenya or Tanzania. We have a lot of contacts through our school and our community through that part of East Africa. And I would definitely love to go, but Nigeria, there's just too much there that I haven't seen or learned about or experienced. Yeah, I just need to keep going back. Fantastic country.
So hopefully the next time we can see you, we can link up on the African continent, man. If you know, Mozambique, Rwanda, Tanzania, all those places, man. I would love to see you that well.
Rwanda. Yeah, Rwanda has a great reputation. Like a lot of people at our school have lived in Rwanda, and the things they talk about, like it just seems like an amazing country, like the new country, the new place to be in Africa, right? Rwanda. So
you talk about Black Panther and Wakanda. I mean, I think that's Wakanda is like the Rwanda is a small Wakanda in Africa.
Yeah, they figured it out. They figured it out, and they're going in the right direction.
So why don't you go ahead and shout out your social media where if you have a link or if you have a page or somewhere where people can follow you. I'll make sure to put it in the description below, but just so people can get an idea of your artwork or those projects, they can follow you on social media as well.
Yeah, so on Facebook and Instagram, my art is under island_of_Quilombo. So Island of Quilombo. And then on Facebook as well, just Cece Nobre. That's my name that's on there, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'll put that in the description below, man. I really appreciate you having you on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Mr. Cece Nobre, and coming to us straight from Phuket, Thailand, a very world traveler, a father, an artist, a teacher, and just an overall really, really impressive young man, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and I hope to have you again soon.
Thank you, man. God bless.
All right, God bless you too, man. Be safe, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, peace.
See ya.